On the latest episode of BCC The Other Side, we take a look at the flaming hot close encounter of the Felix Fire Demon. Bryce brings in some UFO videos for us to analyze, and we share a BCC news item from a listener. Do the Northern Lights make sounds? To subscribe to The Other Side, go to patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub.
It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Well, hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And our super producer,
Riley Bray.
Woo.
Hi. Hey. Welcome back to the clubhouse.
Pleasantries.
We're doing
All
it.
around.
We're still in it, everybody. We're gonna make it happen
doing
no
this
matter
thing. Yeah.
what. I was going through our Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Instagram today, and just like, really, I mean, who wants to talk about this? But really just like, oh my God, it was that long ago since we did an episode with a guest in the studio. You know, I did one. I had one of those moments.
Yeesh, yeah.
But then I looked at all the
times.
Yeah, I looked at all the wonderful guests we managed to have over this past year, and it made me feel immediately better.
Well, and I like how we theme out our pictures for the episodes too. They're kind of fun now, you know. We do fun stuff like put bags on our heads and you know, stuff like that. So that's fun.
Go back to like boring group photos.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Those days are over.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right, boys?
That's right. That's true.
Right.
It's true.
And also, I feel like even if this thing ever does end, you guys are just never coming over again. This is truly so much easier.
Yeah. It's I'm saving up on that gas money, bro.
That's the other thing. We will never be able to get another guest into a physical studio space ever again after this year.
That's not happening.
It's not going to happen. However, I have two requests, guys. We do a Shaver Lake campfire episode.
Check.
Ooh,
done.
Yeah, done.
And we have to do, I don't want to say it has to be this summer, but I kind of feel like it might have to be. We're all on our way to getting vaxxed. We have to do the BCC jet ski special at some point. I just think we put it out there last year, then a pandemic hit, so we have to do it. All right. Speaking of great guests, we have one coming up. Oh, she's a real treat. But before we do that, I have to remind you guys, you listeners out there, there are evil algorithms trying to take over our minds. But then there are good algorithms that are trying to get the podcasts that you love, like this one, to more cool people so that we can help fight the evil reality from taking over. Right? So do us a favor. Bryce, what should they do?
Well, they should leave a 5-star review because that alone helps this podcast get to so many more new listeners, and it just raises our profile a tiny little bit.
Yes, head over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get to do a 5-star review. But here on Apple Podcasts, I like to read the 5-star reviews if you leave us one. Here's one it doesn't even have to be long. It's short and sweet. Good times with the Bigfoot boys. 5 stars by AJ Says. And he says, love me some BCC. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Great.
AJ,
Great.
he, she, non-binary. I'm sorry. I projected my own gender on you, and I apologize. Let's bring in tonight's guest. Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary friends out there, she is... first of all, do you have a pronoun preference, I should ask?
She.
Great. So
yeah.
She, her.
The Almighty.
She is
just the Almighty.
The Almighty she.
I like that one.
Is let me tell you, she's an actor, comedic performer, successful voiceover artist. My God, you might have seen her in Adam Ruins Everything. You may have seen her in Drunk History. You might have heard her as the voice of Supergirl. Come on DC Superhero Girls. The list goes on and on. Club Scouts of the world, please give a warm welcome salute to Anais Fairweather.
Oh my God. Wow. I am saluting you from afar, Bigfoot boys.
Yes.
I think that should be, I love this coined phrase, Bigfoot boys.
I like that.
Bigfoot boys.
Nice.
Is
It's
it
so good.
Should it be BOIS or BOYS?
It's
No,
boys.
it's
Yeah.
definitely
Boys.
I think
Yeah.
that's the way we've been doing it,
Boys.
and I don't know if that's like a dated. Is that like a dated thing? Is that out of fashion?
No, it's good.
I don't think it could-
we're old enough to be dated.
Yeah,
at this
come
point.
on.
I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly.
fine.
We're all dated, and it's a feeling. It evokes a feeling.
That's
Boys,
what it is. It's a
you know?
feeling.
it's a
Good.
feeling.
And,
Wow, I'm so
and the
happy
three
to
of
be
us have
here.
all dated as well. Bryce,
So there
and
you
Michael, and
go.
Riley have all dated.
Did you slip something in my drink? I don't remember.
Not
There's
true at
been
all.
there's been a secret
Wow,
like
my
romance that
God.
no one's known about that's been happening over the past 3.5 seasons of the
You know
show.
what? I have to say, I have seen some photos of you guys online. If you were to Google yourselves, and there's some photos of you guys wearing some nice matching, I think almost matching jean jackets from probably some conventions. So
Yeah, I don't.
I
maybe.
could see something happening, something going down.
That was
Yeah.
a pretty good date, romantic UFO
That was a
convention.
date. That
And
was
listen,
a weekend
let's be
getaway.
honest. I bet the three of you had the best date ever.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe.
wouldn't it be nice if like that conversation could just exist with so many other people in the world? Whatever happened between the three of you?
We did order pizza in a hotel room, and we played a early version of Bryce's dirty game, dirty picture cover up, and that was maybe one of the most fun nights I've ever had.
Oh, we got to do that again.
That was a good time.
Goodness, that's
Anais, we got to get into your personal paranormal history because I have a feeling you have something to share. But before we do that,
Yeah, I do.
Riley, get ready because Bryce has brought in some.
BCC News!
Well done.
Guys, monkeys are playing Pong with their mind. Have you seen this video? Elon Musk's Neuralink shows a monkey playing Pong with his mind.
Now, is it a monkey
What?
or is it a chimpanzee? Because a
it's a
chimpanzee is
macaw.
an ape. Okay.
No, it's a monkey. It's a monkey.
Okay. All right. Got it.
We're going to jump into this right now. I decided to go with
Google it.
BBC News, and this is reported by Jane Wakefield, technology reporter.
Over
Neuralink
Where's the website?
on the BBC.
Oh! I thought you said BCC.
Yeah, little play on
Okay.
letters there. I thought you might enjoy
Oh.
that.
Well done.
Neuralink, Elon Musk's computer-to-brain interface firm, has released a video it claims shows a monkey playing the video game Pong with its mind. Its brain signals were sent wirelessly via an implanted device. The hope is that the interface could eventually allow people with neurological conditions to control phones or computers remotely. One expert said the fact that no wires were used represented, quote, significant progress, but more data was needed. The macaque, I think it's macaque, the macaque monkey.
Bryce,
It
are you
could be all
playing
three
ping?
of those.
Are you playing ping pong with your mind right now?
Macaw.
That little monkey's name was Pager, who's for Pager. I used to have the best, coolest Pager. It was highlight yellow, and oh man, I love when that thing went off.
Ooh.
Anyway, it was first taught to play the video game with a joystick and was rewarded with a fruit smoothie. During this process, the Neuralink device recorded the information about which neurons were firing to control which movements. Then, the joystick was disconnected, leaving the monkey to control the gameplay with only its mind. The quoted researchers are quoted, "Our mission is to build a safe, effective clinical BMI, brain-machine interface system that is wireless and fully implantable, to give people with paralysis their digital freedom back, to communicate more easily via text, to follow their curiosity on the web, porn, to express their creativity through photography, art, and yes, play video games." And I'm done there. That's enough for me. You get the idea. But how cool is that? I mean,
Wow.
future is here, guys.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, it's very cool.
That is amazing. I
Yeah.
love what we can do with this technology. Like, that is so powerful, what we can do with this technology. It does feel a little scary, though,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
It does in a way.
It feels
But I
scary
feel
and
like- oh, go ahead,
sad. It feels sad for the monkey, which is pronounced, I just listened to it, macaque.
Macaque, thank you. Macaque.
It's a macaque.
Thank you. That
I
sounds
feel
right.
bad
alone.
for
Yeah.
macaque.
Yeah, that's better.
I feel
Yeah.
bad.
That's much better. Glad
Too
you
much
looked that
playing
up.
on the joystick.
Oh, boy.
Macaque.
So,
Yeah.
The goal is what? We're just going to control computers with our minds. That's where we're headed with
Yeah,
this,
pretty
right?
much. Look, I've heard Elon Musk talk about this on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's
Right. Of
basically
course you
he's
have.
saying, look, we've already have a symbiotic relationship with our
Mhm.
technological devices. They just happen to be in our pockets. At some point in the near future, that's going to go away. And it probably won't be too long before we're all asking to get these neural links if it's a relatively out the door operation. You don't have to like just quick get it done. And well, maybe that's not the case, but I could see a lot of people getting this stuff.
But
Bryce, when
people-
your kids are on your case to get the brain chip like they are about a cell phone, what are you going to say?
Yeah, come on, Dad. I want the brain chip.
I'll say,
Everyone's
All my
got
friends
one.
have it.
I'll get you your brain chip, but is this how we leave a bathroom? No, it's not. So until we can learn how to properly clean up after ourselves, then we're not going to get the Neuralink, okay?
But people don't want to get the vaccine because they're afraid there are nanobots in it. Do you really think people are going to, which they're not, do you really think that people are going to voluntarily want to put chips in their brains? Think of the conspiracy theories that are going to come along with
God,
this.
yeah.
I could totally
Maybe
see.
it'll be like people putting them in their dogs,
right.
Well, our dogs already
Like
have
first.
microchips in them.
Right, but yeah, imagine if you could play video games with your dog.
Oh,
like,
man.
how awesome is that?
Or maybe like it could communicate its vocalizations into English language. You know what I mean? And so you could actually talk to your dog.
Have you guys seen that dog? There's a dog on Instagram, and I can't remember the name of the dog. I will look this up, and I will put it as a reference in our Instagram. There's a dog that has a soundboard with all these different words on it, and its owner
Yes.
trained her to talk to them by stepping on these buttons.
Shut
Say
up.
like, hungry now, water, walk, daddy, play. Like, and it literally will sad. It'll be like sad, and it'll like
That is
tap
awful.
a button. And
God.
they trained it, and then they know exactly what the dog is thinking. It's like it looks like a pedal board with all these buttons on it that's about as long as like a dining room table, and this dog like talks to
Jesus,
them.
they really give him a lot of options.
Yes, it is. It has like 26 or 27 words on there at least.
Oh my! See, I think that is extremely dangerous. I feel like dogs are already. I mean, I love dogs. I love animals. Don't get me wrong, okay? But they are guilt machines, right?
Hate.
It's like you're constantly
Hate mommy, love dog.
Hate.
hate mommy, hate mom. I mean, imagine all of the things that it's like kind of nice that you don't know what your dog is saying sometimes, because then you
Yeah.
could just be like, listen, I'll get to it, But if you had to know, it's like, I know you're hungry. I can't get to it right now.
You're always fucking hungry.
Yeah. And they always want to go on a walk. They always want a bone. They're all ego, which makes
Yeah.
them, I mean, that would be dangerous.
Abuse.
Yeah,
Abuse.
Violets would just
abuse.
be squirrel.
I'm not
Squirrel.
abusing
Yeah,
you.
right, yeah.
Abuse.
Abuse.
Yeah,
Human
you're trying to have a dinner party. Neglected.
Neglect.
Look over here. Look. Yeah, violets would just be like squirrel, food, pet, and bedtime. That's all it would be.
Right. Yeah. You
Like-
would give the options. You'd limit the options. You wouldn't have a dining room table full of options for your dog, hopefully.
I feel like you get that, and then you just realize dogs have nothing to talk about. They are boring, and then we stop getting dogs. You know what I mean? Like it's more interesting
Right.
when you think that they
Oh
would
my
actually
God,
have a
if-
full conversation with you, which I have in my brain with my
Oh
dog.
my God.
But
Yeah. We want to be able to project on our dogs. We don't
Yeah.
want to know what they're actually thinking or feeling. We want
Annie's
to guess.
chip in your head. Are you going to do this?
Absolutely not. No, I definitely don't want a chip in my head. I think it's really wonderful though for people who have, are differently abled, and then they
That's the
can,
thing.
Yep.
that's really awesome, because I think it would be so hard to be limited physically,
Yep.
and because our minds are so limitless, and to be able to operate more, physically, with this chip would be awesome.
I 100% agree. I think that I think that is a great excuse to develop this type of technology, and I would love to see it applicated that way. I mean, that's
me too.
That's the
Bring
goal,
on
man.
The cyborgs.
Me
Also,
too.
it would be cool if you could write a screenplay just by thinking about it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
God.
Oh,
Right.
Because this also, like, I love dreams, and I know that you guys have talked about dreams in the past, which is part of the reason why I love this podcast too. But it's like I've always wanted kind of like a Minority Report situation where you could create your dreams, like your dreams could be projected, and you could rewatch your dreams.
Oh, man.
Now that I would get the chip in my brain for that, especially if Elon Musk came up with it, because I feel like he's anti-government enough where you'd be like, he's not involved in a conspiracy theory, right?
Right. Oh my God.
That's what he
that's
wants you
a
to
wild
think.
thought, Anais. Can you imagine if you could
love this.
That would be so great if you could actually like play back your dreams, because we all remember them so categorically. But I mean, to be able to just like watch them like a Friday night movie, that'd be amazing.
How fun would that be? Everyone could bring their dream
You're like,
to the
this
party.
plot sucks.
Well, you had sex with a lot of people in your dream, dude.
Bryce, how many times do we have to see you like making out with Britney Spears in this dream?
I've seen this movie. Jesus.
Okay, Nev
Get a new
Campbell's
bag,
showing up
man.
again? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't like it. Maybe never mind that.
All the
It is
stars
very
of 2002.
Stars from 2002. Your dream was super 2002, man, dude. It's 2021. Get with it.
Guilty.
Live in the now.
I know.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
All right.
We've all said, oh boy, at the same
Oh,
time.
boy.
All right, we're
Oh,
going to take a
boy.
quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into Anais's personal paranormal history.
Ooh, please.
Anais,
Yes.
we like to ask all of our guests, what is your personal paranormal history?
Oh boy. Honestly, I do feel like this is almost like a history book. Like
Ooh.
you got to open up, you got to take this dusty book off the shelf, take it down, blow it off, and, open it up. It feels rich.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's really that rich, but for me, it feels like a thick book.
Okay.
So just to give you like the quick end of it, I think I have a very rich experience with it. Part of it is a result of the fact that, not to get sad at all, but, my dad passed when I was 13, but my dad was born in 1919.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
My father was 64 years old when I was born.
Whoa.
So yes.
Sorry,
so
that was
he had-
rude.
Is that Keith Romero from junior high? Dude, I came to your house today and your grandpa answered the door. And I'm like, no, that's my dad. And he's like, no, this guy was old. And I'm like, no, that's my dad. And he's like, no, this guy was like really old. I'm like, yeah, that's my dad. He's like, ew.
But that's just, that's like, who is it?
Yeah.
Tony Randall had his kid at like 75. That's, look.
It's a wild thing to do.
Yeah, selfishly, I'm like, okay, I still have time. So that's really what I'm thinking about. But
You're good, dude. You got some years. You're fine.
You got a
I don't
few
know about
years.
my
You
knees,
got,
though. How were your dad's knees? Did he complain about his knees a lot? Because I feel like that's what would happen to me.
I mean, honestly, not great. But my dad also was a fighter pilot in World War II. So
Oh, no
unless
shit.
you
That's
flew
cool.
planes in World War II before they had like proper apparatus to help with your asthma. So yeah, his body was like failing him pretty steadily throughout my
Yikes.
life. But he was this really powerful man, and he had a powerful spirit. He had near-death experiences throughout his life as
wow.
a fighter pilot. So, and he was a minister. He was also a psychoanalyst. He had 13 licenses in the state of California. He was this brilliant mind. I know. I don't know how I wasn't breastfed long enough or something, because
God.
honestly, I came just stumbling out. Anyway, and so because of who my dad was, both my parents were psychoanalysts. So I learned to have lucid dreams as a child. Like dinner table talk was always like, what were you dreaming last night? That kind of stuff. So it always sort of intrigued me that like, there's so many things we don't know about the world. And there's so many things that we don't know about our own mind that we're constantly learning, and we can't really put limitations on anything. And I feel that way about the world at large. And then when my dad passed, it kind of opened up this door to that other realm. And my dad, you know, was very spiritual, and you know, as he was dying, he saw angels and like things happened. And so throughout my life, like I've had a lot of experiences with the other side. And, you know, like I said to you guys, like I feel like this is like a party I've always wanted to be invited to, getting to be on this podcast, because I have had a lot of experiences that you can't talk about with everybody, because a lot of people laugh it off or think it's crazy, or they just don't absorb it in the right way. But I feel like this is like the place I can talk about it, you know?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and then growing up, my brother and I like loved horror movies. We were like big into horror movies. I don't really like horror movies today. They got a little too scary and a little too psychotic, if you will.
Yep.
Like I like movies, like horror movies in the 80s and the 90s, where everything was left to the imagination, and like a good score, like this, everything was in the score and in the music, and it left you thinking, and our own imagination is far more wild than anything you can put on screen.
I'm literally training my children that I have this movie list and it's like, son, are you ready for Terminator 1 this week? And like, not yet, Dad. Terminator 2 was good a few weeks ago, but I mean, I'm getting over the blood, so I think I'll be ready for Terminator 1 in a few weeks. I'm like, good. You did Aliens last night. You did it really well. So let's just keep moving down this list.
Oh my God, you sound just like my mom. Like my mom, I think I was in 6th grade, and she's like, I had a sleepover with my friend Taylor, and my mom was like, hey girls, I picked up a movie at the movie store. Do you guys want to watch Carrie tonight? And we were like, okay. You know,
that's so good.
It was just like, oh my God. That movie was insane, but I loved it.
And like the whole opening of Carrie is just like a bunch of 70s Bush.
Oh, so much Bush.
Like, whoa.
So much Bush. And I have to say, like being, you know, I was born in 1984. Sorry, everybody out there who's like in their 20s, but you know, I'm an old lady. And they're like, I mean, I have to say this, like moms all had bushes, you know, like full on.
Sure.
So like, that's what I was used to. Like when I saw that opening scene of Carrie, I was just like, yeah, that's a bunch of bushes. Like that's what women have. Like
checks out.
Yeah. First thing on the list about life. Okay, great. Everyone's got a bush. Not anymore. God.
Were your parents
people are doing with their vaginas?
Did they remain together? Were your parents always together?
They were always together. And like my mom never remarried. I mean, my dad
How could
passed
she? What
away
a fascinating
over 20.
man.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he was extremely fascinating and such an open mind and open spirit. I mean, he really was like somebody who, I tell this to my friends who, you know, who lose loved ones, or at this point, you know, people are losing their parents, unfortunately. And I just tell them, you know, the relationship will be what you want it to be. Like if you want the relationship to continue, it will. It's a new relationship, but it's not over, you know? And so I just had to like learn my dad in this realm, you know, where we don't see each other, but like he's extremely present still, you know.
So how specifically, like, let's get into it. I want to hear.
Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so
let's have the conversation you're afraid to have anywhere else.
Oh my God. And I've had these conversations with people, and they're like, oh yeah, well, that's pretty scary. And I'm like, no, it's not scary at all. It's cool, you know? But so when my dad passed away, it's kind of an unusual situation, but he actually like was still in the home. We had a hospital bed, and we had like nurses who would come in and take care of him when my mom was working. And so we actually were fortunate enough to have a hospital bed in the house. So he was always at home. So he died in the house. And the night that he passed away, he was on a breathing tube, and my mom came downstairs because she had to have the hospital bed downstairs. And he was like she could tell that like, he hadn't eaten in a week. And so his body was like, his body had already crossed, like, or his spirit was trying to cross over, but couldn't because he was forced to breathe from this breathing machine. So my mom said, do you want me to remove it? And he shook his head yes. And so she did. And she said, can you hear, this is like kind of sorry, but she said, can you hear the bells ringing? Can you hear the angels singing? Because my dad was very spiritual. And he nodded his head yes. And so she like, stayed with him for a little bit and then came back upstairs to come get me. And at that time, I heard a tapping at the window. Before she came upstairs, I heard a tapping at the window. And I woke up from a sleep from this tapping at the window. And the light outside my window like was really bright. And we had a baby monitor on him. And so from the room, because I was sleeping in my mom's room, the baby monitor, I heard bells ringing on the baby monitor, and my mom got upstairs.
Oh my God.
And she said, I think your dad's going to be passing away soon. And I was like, I think he just did, because I heard a tapping at the window and I heard bells ringing on the baby monitor. And we went and got my brother and we went downstairs, and he had passed away.
Wow.
And then the next day they have to embalm the body and all of those things. And so I was going to go with my friend Jessica and her mom, and they were going to take me shopping, as you do in Orange County when someone has died. Another mom in the neighborhood takes you shopping, and that's what you do, because what do you want to do after you've just lost your father? You want to go to the mall, right? That's what everybody.
New top. Yep.
God. I mean, talk about a zombie. I literally was just walking around that mall like such a zombie that day. But I was blow drying my hair in the bathroom, and we had like a Jack and Jill bathroom, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like, okay. I was like, I don't know if that's like a normal term for it, but anyways, a Jack and Jill
bathroom. Tell
our
listeners, maybe some of our listeners don't.
Yeah, it's basically a bathroom in between two bedroom doors. And so two bedrooms share one bathroom. And so I was blow drying my hair, and the doors were shut, and all of a sudden the door opened. Like it opened, one of the doors like just completely opened. It wasn't completely shut, but it opened up all the way, and this big gust of wind came through the bathroom. And it's like I could smell my dad, and I was like, okay, it must just be I'll shut the window in my brother's room. So I walked into my brother's room to shut the window, and the window was shut. So it was just like this like insane gust of wind that came in. And then for like years after this, every time I would walk into the room, the light would turn on, and I'd be like, Dad, and the light would turn off. This happened for years, and it got to the point where like my friends were like, I don't want to spend the night at your house because your dad scares me. So I had asked him to stop. And then one last like crazy thing that happened growing up was like my friend Jessica and I were playing, and we hear this ringing, and it's like a telephone ringing, and we can't find it. We finally realize it's in our messy closet. Like we had this like a messy drawer, but we had like a messy closet growing up. And we opened it up. We could hear the ringing from inside there. And so we found that there was this like phone. It was a cord, like a phone with a cord, but it wasn't plugged in.
What?
And it was just ringing. And so I like picked it up.
Yeah, you did.
Hello? I mean, why the hell not?
Anna East here. How may I help you?
Yes,
that phone.
yes, spirits. Calling from the other side. What would you like to say? And there was obviously nothing. No one said anything on the other line, but it was those kinds of experiences happened all the time growing up, and undeniable. And it really was one of those things where my mom was like, "Listen, you either can lean into it or you can lean out of that, and if you lean in, it could take over, and so it really just depends on what you want." And so I leaned out, but I've always felt like I've had one foot in that world, because I grew up with it. It shaped so much of the way that I see the world is through the experience I had with my dad and his passing. And I think when you have death happen in the family at such an early age, because he was sick for such a long time too, it shapes the way that you see the world. It kind of allows the thin veil of life to like be lifted, and you can see through it.
Wow. Do you
That's
still?
a
Yeah, sorry, I said
story.
and I know a lot of people hate that when they're like, and then it's like, I guess.
Anais, I
We
don't
do
know.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, we
I
do.
don't.
Come on, Bigfoot
And so
boys.
that word verbiage works here.
Okay, good.
I'd like to talk to you after this podcast. Do you
Yeah,
still
really?
No, I'm just do you
Okay.
well, of course, we're friends. Do you still feel like you get communication with
Oh, yeah.
from your dad now? Because you said you kind of left it behind, but where's all that now? You know?
Totally. I definitely do. I mean, he comes to me in dreams a lot. Not like because I remember I think one of you had said this in the past on the podcast is like if you ask for it and then you go to sleep, sometimes they'll come to you.
Mm.
And that it doesn't always happen that way, but he has come to me and said some very important things to me. And I've always written those things down, and then it will be years later and those things will mean so much. And it's like, oh, well, that was actually a really profound thing that he said in my dream. But my relationship with him is still the same. I don't have lights turning on and off anymore. And it's not like doors are being opened and wind is blowing in my face and those kinds of things, but he's really present. I'll get readings done. I really love, there's this, one of my friends, Charlene de Guzman, she's charlenejoy.com, and you can get readings with her, and she's really fantastic. And I've done some readings with her, and my dad has definitely come through. And I write down everything that she tells me that he says and stuff. And it's really cool. I had a reading in the last month, and he said so many poignant things to me about the way that I need to be living my life. Little things accept your body, accept yourself, have extreme love for yourself. And of course, these things kind of could be for anybody, but they resonate so deeply at certain times in my life where I'm like, oh my God, I'm really struggling with this. And then just doing something to work on that one little thing completely opens up my life in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite books is Surviving Death by Leslie Kean, and she's an investigative journalist, so she takes a very pragmatic, real approach, and she wanted to know for herself what was to this sort of these afterlife correspondences, and basically what she came away with is when these loved ones reach out, it's in such a personal way, a profound way that for anyone else they'd be like, oh, that's just that, but when it's targeted to you, from someone you love, it's so specific, and
Yes.
it sounds like that's the same thing, and it's just it's meant for you, not for everybody else to believe in it, but it's they're just little signs and gifts for you.
Well,
I think that's so profound, and
it's also advice that your dad would give you if he were alive too. It's very practical, as spiritual as it hits you. That the thing that I was thinking of is the messages that you're getting. That's like fatherly love. That's dad's telling you hey, don't sweat this stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
These are the important things in life, which I feel that's what parents should do. It's kind of light the way for their kids and their adult children.
100%.
We've heard about in quantum physics, a lot of this talk about entangled particles, right? And I feel if particles can be entangled
all the time, I mean, everywhere we go.
Oh my God, I love talking about entanglement.
I was just talking about them the other day.
No, I've been talking about entanglement for 6 weeks.
Oh, perfect. Great. Well, I always feel, or at least I feel today right now, that if particles can be entangled, then so can people, right? And it's so, for instance, as soon as
we are made up of particles. Yeah, we're made up of energy. And it
transcends space and time. It's faster than the speed of light. The communication is instantaneous. And it's if you're thinking about your father and that has resonance, then boom, your father is immediately connected and on that pathway. And he can communicate no problem, like nobody's business. And it's I just feel the people in our lives that we are entangled with them, and it crosses death, it crosses time, it crosses space, and if we tune into those bonds, for lack of a better word, then they're there to be used.
You and your dad have formed a dyad in the Force.
Amen.
My God.
You're you're just like Ray and Kylo.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
Same. I'm like, oh, you lost
No,
me on that
I 100%. I mean, like, there's so much to entanglement too. I mean, like, you said it all perfectly. Exactly. That one affects the other, and it
100%.
has to, and it doesn't. And we're so limited, we understand so little about just our physical world,
Yeah.
and things are constantly being broken. The way that we know geometry and physics laws are constantly changing and being broken. And so it's like, what is anything, I mean, we're powerful beings. Everything is matter. Everything is shifting and energy. And so it's just like, we're only limited to our own mind and the way that we see the world. So if you see the world if there's limitlessness in the world, then the world is going to be without limit.
Here.
Now, do you think this connection you have with your father, do you think this is something that comes naturally to everybody, or do you think like your dad was predispositioned to be sort of, stronger on the other side, or you're more receptive? Like, is there a history of this stuff in your family, or what?
I think those are all such great questions. Yes, I do. I actually had this conversation recently with a really good family friend of ours. One of my dad's really good friends, who of course was much younger than him, and he's unfortunately he's been diagnosed with brain cancer, and so he's been in many rounds of chemotherapy and surgeries, but it's going to take him, And I told him, it's if you. And you guys had talked about this on the podcast, is that like, whatever you're dealing with on the planet, whatever you're searching for, whatever lessons you're trying to learn on Earth, you're going to continue learning on the other side, or whatever we turn into after we leave our physical bodies. And we're going to be constantly working on that thing. And so I think my dad on Earth was just such an evolved person and such an evolved spirit. And of course he had things that he struggled with like anybody else, but he was so evolved. And like you said, Michael, you could definitely still have kids. And I have to say that, like, I really appreciate that my dad was older, because he imparted so much wisdom, and he understood that every moment was important. And we get caught up, like I get caught up in my own stuff all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a daughter. Like, I have to pay attention to my 1.5-year-old, like, what are you doing? But my dad rarely did that. Like, every moment was special and important to him. And so I think being such an evolved spirit has definitely allowed him to stay extremely connected to me and to my family, on the other side. So I do think that is part of it. And then, I'm Sicilian. And so being Sicilian and Italian, like,
yeah.
Lore exists in families,
Family is everything. Yeah.
Everything. And, there was never a time that you went to like a family dinner and you didn't sit on the couch and you realized that you were sitting on Nana because she was underneath that Afghan blanket. Like, there was old people in the house all the time. So there was always this connection to life and death. It was always in our face. No one was in an old folks home. Everyone died in the home. And so being connected to that, I think, also allows us to be open in a different way.
So you were exposed. Sounds like not just with your father, but your family was, death wasn't something that was hidden away.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, most of us in modern society, that's kind of the case. You know what I mean? Like, we remove death from the house. It happens in a hospital or in hospice.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And, for, I feel like, thousands of years, that was something that people were more witness to. And now we have sort of that disconnection with it, I feel like.
We do. And we don't have connection to the process of people passing either. Like, I've listened to podcasts or documentaries or people speak about death, and a lot of people heal through the process of burying their family. And in more like tribal communities, like being able to bury the body of your loved one, like, it helps you grieve and heal and process death. And a lot of times it's like, until you really have a relationship with death, like, how do you really live?
That's been
100%.
one of the
Yep.
things that's been so hard about this year, in particular, with people losing loved ones.
Oh God, yeah.
It's just
People
been
have
hard.
experienced, and then, oh God, yeah, and then not being able to be with their loved one, because they can't get into the hospital, is traumatizing. But to those people, like, I would definitely encourage, like, either getting a reading or, like, even just like going into a dark room and lighting a candle and, like, just talking out loud to that person and allowing that that relationship to exist. And I think that even those people who maybe weren't like my dad, who were like extremely evolved, whatever, I think that it still opens a door, definitely, for them to realize that they're still around.
Was there a moment you had to get over where you're like, I'm going to talk out loud to a spirit right now, and I feel stupid? You know what I mean?
100%. Usually this is how it goes. I'll like sit down and I'll be like, listen, hey dad, like, I'm really struggling. I know everybody else in the world is struggling way more than me. And this is stupid that I'm even asking for your help right now. But like, I just like, can you help me? I know it's dumb. Like, every time I like sit down, I'm like, oh my God, this is so lame. But I can't help it.
I remember like having, so I like, I'm not a religious person, but I like to think I'm a pretty, spiritual person. But I say a little prayer at bed it's more just a term of a grateful endearment for the day or whatever before I go to sleep. And I remember I used to say it out loud and be like, wait a minute. I was like, if there's God, he's got to be able to read my mind. I don't have to say this shit out loud and embarrass myself. I'll just do it right in my own mind, man. It's like, there you go.
I'll do it in my mind, and then I'll do it on a podcast, baby.
Right. So I do a lot of mind prayers.
I was walking around my apartment, mind prayers. I was walking around the apartment the other night because 2 nights ago, I was having like really wild, weird, scary dreams, and then like it wasn't quite sleep paralysis. I think I was asleep, but I was dreaming that I was in my bed and there were like entities in the room, and I was like having this like cosmic, like astral battle in my brain to get these fuckers out of my personal space,
Wow.
And I was actually chatting with Marcy Jarro about it, and she's like, you got to cleanse your space. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So I got my sage and my dragon's blood and the incense that Adela Levine told me to get, shout out. And I was like walking around the room, walking around my apartment, like saging, and then being like, it's that thing where like I still have a hard time committing 100% out loud. So I'm like, okay, evil spirit, get out. I don't want it. I don't want you in here.
You know who you are.
Don't do this anymore. Like only Albie, my dog, you're welcome. But just like there's part of you that like feels like you should be like commanding it. You know what I mean? And like you're just like, oh,
with your magician's dagger.
Doing like Hadoukens.
Right.
Yeah, like exactly.
Shoryuken!
Like you motherfucker. But I'm just like, it's like sort of half committed coming out of me. It's like stuck in my chest a little bit. But I'm telling you what, I slept like a baby that night. I really did.
Oh my God.
That is such a funny image, and I love the idea of like the ghosts or the entities on the other side being like, okay, hey guys, he's gonna try and do the saging. Let's watch. Okay.
I like the idea. I like the
Scary.
idea of a half committed like Gandalf. You know what I mean? You shouldn't pass here. Don't pass. This is
maybe go around.
Maybe go around if you can. I don't know.
I don't know, guys.
Stupid.
I feel stupid.
No, Gandalf, keep going.
No,
is it okay?
stupid.
It's
This is
okay.
dumb.
All right.
This is working. I don't know. I think my neighbors can hear me.
It's so funny. Anytime that we've like saged the house or anything, my husband's always like, all right, dudes, like, listen, we're super chill. We're just like super chill. We're just hanging out here. Okay. Like, you can stay, but be chill. Everyone be chill. He like turns into this like complete surfer dude, which he is,
awesome.
but like, he just wants everybody to be chill.
That's great.
Yeah. He's going more for like gracious party host than like exorcist.
Yes, exactly.
It's all good. Like, you can crash here if you need to.
Right.
We're winding down, but whatever. It's cool.
Take it outside if it's going to get heated. Just take it out. Go for a walk, maybe. So, Anais, what do you think? What do you think the other side looks like? Like, what is it in your brain when you think?
Okay, this is going to sound so lame. Well, here's the thing. I have no idea, but I have to say, did you guys ever watch the OA?
I didn't. I heard it was great.
I did. Yeah.
Oh God, I
didn't know.
loved it.
What is the OA?
The Original Angel.
Oh.
And it was a series on
Netflix.
I think Netflix.
Netflix, yeah. And it was about this woman who basically she left. Like she was this blind woman and she was this beautiful she could play this cello beautifully, and this man found her and he took her and she left and she disappeared for years, and then she came back and she could see, and her family was like, we have no idea what happened to her, and we're just trying to make sure she's okay. And you come to find that she's had all of these near-death experiences and she's an angel. And anyway, it's it was 3 seasons long. It's not coming back, and I'm so mad because I was so excited for the new season, or maybe it's 2 seasons. Anyway, I loved it, and I loved the way that the other side was portrayed as being this kind of all full of energy. I do think that, I don't know if we I don't think we look like ourselves, but I think it's all cosmic and energy that's just kind of moving. And I have no idea. It could look exactly like this, right? It could be a complete parallel universe that looks like it's the one we have now. But I definitely think that there's something on the other side, but I don't think that's pearly gates or anything like that.
Sometimes I picture it looking, because you always hear the thing when people have these experiences, either psychedelic or on the other, near death, where they're it was realer than real. It felt like this was the dream, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I always kind of picture it okay, think about what our reality looks like compared to a dream. And then that's what the other side looks like compared to this. It's ultra 8K, HD,
well,
and you can see around time and space, you know what I mean? It's super, super.
I can unpack that a little bit, because I've had that experience, and what it feels like is just that basically all synchronicities compound into one moment, and there's not a single thing that goes by that isn't meaningful. There's not an ounce of energy wasted, right? So it's just the colors are vibrant, the smells are more alive. It's everything is like how it should be. This world is a lower vibration. You know what I mean? It's dull.
Wow.
It's your mind is scatterized, but it's when you're in that sort of experience of this feels realer than this world. It's it's unbelievable. It's like that. It's just vibrant, and everything has deeper meaning, and time seems to just stand still. It's every movement is there's a reason behind it. I think that's called Wu Wei, right? Not a wasted movement,
Wow.
not a wasted breath.
Is it almost I don't synesthesia? Is when babies are born, they can taste color and smell sound.
Yeah, I think it's exactly like that.
Really? Yeah, because I'd imagine, because I've heard people having these experiences like what you said, but they said that they could the earth, they could feel things, and the nature, they could taste nature.
Yeah, it's almost like
even though they weren't putting it in their mouth.
Yeah, you can
eating grass.
Put that stick down.
They did have a mouthful of grass, but
their ants crawling
this
all over
tastes
that.
like dirt.
Dave, are you okay?
Nature tastes like dirt.
This is a dream. This world's not real. It's realer over in my mouth. Dave, you need to go home.
Everyone, crawl into my mouth.
Also, who invited Dave? Dave just showed up.
This
Dave,
bee
be
is my
chill.
friend.
Dave, we just want you to be chill. It's all good. You can stay, but
Oh my god.
I hope you guys are right, because if I get to the other side and it's just like a strip mall in Burbank,
Oh
or
my
something,
God.
I'm going to be very disappointed.
Oh, that would be awful. And you know what used to really scare me when I thought about death was that it never ends, that it's like time never ends. That would be awful to be stuck at a strip mall forever.
But
Right.
the strip mall is full of toys from the 80s.
Oh, then
and-
you know what? I'm down.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
it's just all your favorite stuff.
Make
you
your
ever-
own strip
yeah.
mall, Riley.
Oh, I am so down for a strip mall full of toys, just bins full of
Just
toys
like-
from the 80s.
Yeah, just like Kenner's classic real Ghostbusters and, Silverhawks.
Oh my I recently decided that I'm going to go onto eBay and start collecting things that I used to love in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And
Well,
yeah.
that's
I'm
what
going
I
to
do.
start my own mini collections because, when you're a kid, like you don't want to be a baby anymore. And so you get rid of a lot of your stuff because you're like, I'm not a baby anymore. These are baby things. I'm a teenager now or whatever. And now I'm like, God, I wish I would have kept all that stuff. Like army ants. My brother had so many army ants and now they're so
Those were
expensive on
great.
eBay.
Yes.
I've been chasing that dragon for 20 years.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? With army ants?
I'll send you
specifically?
pictures of
Recapturing
my
his
office.
childhood through
Yeah.
toys.
Yeah.
I didn't
sold
know
all-
that, Michael.
Oh, dude, I had like all the good stuff, and I sold it all I sold the first chunk to take my freshman homecoming date, who was like just a friend and not interested in dating me, to like a nice dinner, and then the rest I sold
Oh my
because I wanted to get a
God.
Super Nintendo, and my parents
Wow.
told me there was no way that they were going to buy one. So
You gave up your Silverhawks for Sizzler.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, where did you guys
I really
go?
did. Oh man, what was it called? It was called like EBT's, and it was like what I thought was the fanciest restaurant at the time. This is in Kansas City.
It's like an
And it was
Olive Garden.
Well, yeah, no, but it was like I remember I ordered duck, and then I choked on the duck because it was so gamey. I'd never had it before, and I thought
How's the duck?
I thought like that was a refined thing to do. And my
Were
date,
you so pissed the whole
my-
time? You're like, I sold all of my toys
yeah, and I was like,
for
I
a duck that
tried.
I choked on.
I was chewing and I couldn't break it up, and I was swallowing it, and then I started choking on it.
That's great.
Like for this, I got rid of Cat's Lair. I sold
Right.
Cat's Lair for $5 for this.
And
So
I mean,
funny.
honestly, hats off to you for ordering the duck as a kid. And also, like, I remember I used to work at Houston's, Hillstone Houston's.
Oh, yeah.
Such a good restaurant. And I remember when like kids would come in and they'd be like clearly on a date and they were so young and they would try and order fancy things. And I'd just be like, oh my God, this is the sweetest thing. But also, like, they're not going to know how to eat that.
Right.
You know?
Just
How
get
are
the
they gonna
burger
get through
kid.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Oh
You'll have a
my
nice
God.
time.
Eat what you know.
Oh
Eat what
my
you know.
God.
All right. Well, Anais, we have a game that we love to play with all of our guests, and you are
Yes.
certainly no exception. I'm going to go down a list of phenomena, rapid fire. If you're
Great.
open to it, you're going to say believe it. If you're not, you're going to say bullshit.
Great.
If you're somewhere in between, you have to come down on one side of the fence. All right. We can circle back and talk about any of these
Ooh,
things
okay.
that you want to come back to. But here we go.
Okay.
This is a game we call bullshit.
Or believe it.
Anais, on your mark,
Mhm.
get set, ghosts,
Believe it.
UFOs,
Believe it.
Bigfoot,
Believe it.
ESP,
Believe it.
shadow people,
I've met one. Believe it.
unicorns,
Oh, I want it to be believe, but it's bullshit.
alien abductions,
Believe it.
Yeti,
I mean, believe it.
Mothman,
Bullshit.
out-of-body experiences,
Believe it.
tarot cards,
Believe it.
demonically possessed dolls,
Oh, bullshit.
the healing power of crystals,
Believe it. I've got a drawer full of them. I want them to work.
an alien spacecraft crashed at Roswell,
Believe it.
Loch Ness Monster,
I'm teetering, and I think I'm falling into bullshit.
Atlantis.
Bullshit.
Haunted houses.
Believe it.
Skunk ape.
Skunk cape?
Skunk ape.
Skunk ape.
We're getting close.
I've never heard of skunk ape.
Okay. I
Wow.
think that counts as an
Wow.
unlock, don't you, boys?
That counts.
Okay.
That counts.
You just-
Unlock it, baby.
You unlocked a hidden game within the game. The
Ooh.
Jersey Devil.
The Jersey is this one that you're asking me about?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll get to the skunk ape game after the rest of this.
Okay,
list
wait.
is
The
done.
Jersey Devil?
Mhm.
I want this to be another game. What is the Jersey Devil?
It's like a weird cryptid creature that's got like bat wings and like a weird goat head that like hangs out in the Pine Barrens. of
Not on like
Jersey.
not on like the Jersey Shore, but like somewhere else in Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like a demonic cryptid that was
Damn.
birthed the
From
13th
Jersey.
child of a woman that
From
became-
Jersey.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
Jersey.
I'm pretty sure I've met a few of them, but I'm going to say bullshit.
The biblical devil.
Bullshit.
Speaking to the dead.
Oh, believe it.
Mermaids.
Bullshit.
The government is hiding the truth about Sasquatch.
I think that's bullshit.
Past lives.
Believe it.
Life on other planets.
Believe it.
Life after death.
Believe it.
All right. You did
Woo.
great.
Well
Let's
done.
circle
Thank you
back
so
much.
before we
Well done.
move on to game 2. Let's see. You met a shadow person.
Oh, yeah. That's happened to me before. And I don't know if it's like sleep paralysis, like you had mentioned earlier. But basically, there's been a couple times when I've woken up, once as a kid, both of them as kids, but once as like a, young adult, where I've woken up and there was like a person like hovering over me and I could see them. One of them was like an older woman. And then one of them was, I think they were both like older women, but they were hovering over me and I couldn't move. And it was like, I wasn't sure if I was still if I was awake or if I was still in my dream. And then like, I couldn't talk either. And then I could finally start moving. And once I could start talking, I was like telling it to leave and it slowly left.
Oh.
So that has happened to me a couple times. And it is
That counts.
awful. It is awful.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like she was. One time I felt scared, and then the other time I felt like she was just checking in.
Got it. Maybe an ancestor that you didn't know about.
Maybe, yeah.
You mentioned before we started recording that your family is kind of a Bigfoot family. You said to leave it to Bigfoot. What's that about?
Yeah. Well, my husband really loves Bigfoot. And I will say, like, for instance, the other night I went outside and it was like dusk and he was in the pool, like soaking because it's ice cold and he thinks that's like good for him because of, Joe Rogan podcast. And I was going to finish gardening real quick and there was something coming from his phone and it was like this weird, crazy noise. And I was like, what is that? What are you listening to? And he's like, oh, just some Bigfoot footage. I'm just listening to see if.
I love this guy.
Are you married to Bryce? Bryce, do you have a secret second family that we don't know about?
No, just a jacuzzi Bigfoot club where we go over footage and vocalizations in a jacuzzi.
That's another Patreon.
Maybe you'll get an invite.
Oh man.
Boy, you might have
And
to
I'm
get
like,
him on the show.
Yeah, he loves it. I mean, like, we have watched several Bigfoot documentaries, and what's better than a good Bigfoot documentary is a bad Bigfoot documentary where
Mhm.
it's
Hell
just
yeah.
like feels like a 13-year-old kid made it, and he's just like learned, how to not Photoshop, but like use whatever iMovie.
Could not.
God.
I could not agree more. Absolutely.
Right? They're so fun to watch. And like we were watching one the other night and it was like These formations have been found in forests all along the Central Coast. No one knows what they are, but they're triangular shaped. And then it's just like a series of pictures of like broken trees that are like made to in shapes like X's, you know?
Tree structures,
and tree structures. But I mean, like right now I'm facing an original artwork from an artist, and it's Bigfoot in a like a bus. So we have like a lot of Bigfoot stuff.
Well, you're going to need to take a photo of that and send it to us. We'll put it on
I will.
All right.
Yeah, we do like Bigfoot in this house.
Well, your husband may already know about this entity and may already be a fan, but since you don't know what skunk ape is, you've unlocked a secret game called 60 Seconds to Sell Skunk Ape. I think I said that right. Bryce has 60 seconds on the clock to convince you that skunk ape is real. All right, Bryce, you ready? Because on your mark,
I'm ready.
Get set, go.
All right, I think we can get right to the point on this one. Look, Anais, we're both Bigfoot believers, right?
Bigfoot.
Yeah. So all skunk ape is Florida's Bigfoot. That's it. That's it. It's just an East Coast swamp Sasquatch. And they call it skunk ape because sometimes it has a white mark down its back and it smells like a skunk. What do you say? Can we put you down as a believer for skunk ape?
And these are found in swamps in and around Florida?
Yeah. And that makes sense, doesn't it?
I do have to say, I did go to Florida once during the pandemic, so it was weird. And I think it's very possible that something is lurking. I mean, there's a lot going on in Florida.
Great. I'm just going to write you down here as a believer. I have your address as so and so. And you know, for ordering today, I'm going to go ahead and put in a pack of M&Ms.
Stop, Bryce. You're done.
A pack of M&Ms?
Oh no, that
what
came
kind?
In. That guy. Nope, he cannot speak anymore. I'm sorry, Anais.
I hope it's peanut.
Do
or peanut
you
butter.
buy skunk ape?
Like, I really do think that it's very possible that something is living in those swamps in Florida, and so much is happening in Florida that, you know what? If I believe in Bigfoot, I can't
leave out
be
Florida.
Open-minded.
Yeah,
Bryce,
exactly.
Stop. Bryce, you're
if
done selling.
Floridians believe in it, then I can't be closed-minded. You know, I can't discriminate one Bigfoot for the other. I'm going to go ahead and say, sure.
Boom.
All right. Congratulations,
Boom.
Bryce. You sold skunk ape.
Well, thank you very much. And look, to learn more about the skunk ape, visit our backlog BCC episode 19 with Adam Marcinowski, where we discuss the Myakka skunk ape.
All right.
I like how you went for the hard sell that time.
I used some of. Did you hear my trial closes? Yeah, that's how I used to sell computer toner ribbons and cartridges.
You were closing that sale.
Yeah, and that makes sense, doesn't it? And you could see why that would benefit you, don't you?
That's good.
You can't say no to those questions.
Yeah.
Did you
Always
ever
be
feel
closing.
guilty selling stuff?
I hated sales with a fucking passion.
Yeah.
Oh,
me too.
Well, I'm glad you're
But I was
finally
good at
using it for something good, Bryce.
You're using it for good, yeah.
Because
And I use it
the
for
photos,
skunk
I got to
ape.
say, the photos haven't been working lately. So
no, I know. Well, moving on to new techniques. So.
there's photos, Anais. We'll make sure you see them before you say goodnight tonight.
Oh my God. That is, okay, great.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for this week's story of high strangeness with Bryce.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm going to stop and do a new recording, so everybody stand by.
Okay.
All right, we're back. Before we get into this week's story of high strangeness, Anais has taken a look at the Myakka skunk ape photos.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stand firm by your decision to buy skunk ape?
I'm so firmly, I am standing so firmly in my decision. And I feel like I would be kicking myself if I said I didn't believe in it. Of course I believe in skunk ape.
We should do that now. Like, if you don't use the photos, like when people say no, we show them the photo afterwards. Like, this is what you could have won.
I like that. I like that a lot.
All right, Bryce. Well, it's your turn for a story of high strangeness tonight. What do you got for us?
Look, hearing our conversation, our lovely conversation that we had with Anais. I think everybody is going to really like this story. I'm going to start it with a quote. Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then you'll see it's not the spoon that bends. It is only yourself. Little boy in the Oracle's waiting room. The Matrix.
This
I
is
thought
one.
that was Einstein.
God, I love the Matrix too.
This is one where I feel like Bryce is just going to start describing a movie.
Yeah, we saw the Matrix quote. You know where we're headed.
You've probably never heard of him, but at one point in time, Andrija Puharich was one of the world's leading innovative scientists. An experimental researcher and physician, his primary aim was to bridge the fields of parapsychology and medicine. He held numerous patents granted in medicine as well as electronics, and is the inventor of the Faraday cage, hearing aids, and the Idea-oscope, a special strobe light that could train the user to have out-of-body experiences at will. Dr. Andrija Puharich authored several groundbreaking books about his research into the uncharted waters of parapsychology. Considered a cautious and methodical scientist, he wrote the best-selling books Beyond Telepathy and The Sacred Mushroom, Key to the Door of Eternity. But if you know him at all, it's probably because he is largely credited for discovering the famed psychic Uri Gellar. Anna, do you know who Uri Gellar is?
I do not know.
Okay, he's the spoon bender. You remember him? Ever heard of him?
Not from the Matrix?
We'll get into it.
Okay, not from the Matrix. Okay, that's...
Not from the Matrix.
Okay, because I do know the Matrix.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that you were like, have you heard of it? And then you're just like the one like very specific thing she would have known had she heard of him. No other context or information
The
whatsoever.
spoonbender. Oh.
Yeah. That's all you
Spoon
need.
guy.
Yeah.
You know the airbender?
But I do know about the spoon bender.
You know the last,
Okay.
You know the last airbender? Well, this guy's kind of like that, but he's the spoon bender.
Yeah. She knows. We're going to get into it. We're going to get right into it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Now, the extraordinary claims of Dr. Andrija Puharich is why I'm interested, because he says that a group of extraterrestrials who called themselves the Nine contacted him and threatened his reputation as a legitimate scientist and cast him in the dubious role of contactee. Born in Chicago in 1918, Puharich was one of seven children born to Croatian immigrants. During World War II, Puharich was a student in the Army Specialized Training Program. He earned an undergraduate degree in philosophy and pre-medicine and received his MD from the Northwestern University School of Medicine in 1947. From 1953 to 1955, he served as a captain in the Army Medical Corps and was already presenting papers about the possible military usefulness of paranormal phenomena such as extrasensory perception, or ESP, earning him meetings with various high-ranking officers and officials from the Pentagon, CIA, and Naval Intelligence. And Anais, I heard you say a big yes on ESP, so
yeah, baby.
Let's get into it. In 1952, Puharich had been investigating the Hindu scholar Dr. D.G. Vinod, who claimed to possess clairvoyant powers. It was at this time, during one of their meetings, when suddenly the scholar went into a trance and proceeded to speak in a strange voice with a perfect English accent. The voice described itself as a representative of the 9 principles and forces, superhuman intelligences who created mankind and whose aim was to aid human evolution.
I am the beginning. I am the end. I am the emissary. But the original time I was on the planet Earth was 34,000 of your years ago. I am the balance. And when I say I mean because I am an emissary for the 9. It is not I, but it is the group. We are 9 principles of the universe, yet together we are one.
Well done. Strangely enough, this concept of the 9 is nothing new. Stories of emperors, kings, and pharaohs consulting a pantheon of 9 gods can be found in multiple cultures across the globe. The ancient Egyptians had what was known as the Great Ennead, a group of 9 deities in Egyptian mythology who were worshipped at Heliopolis. And in Greek mythology, after punishing Prometheus for giving fire or divine knowledge to mankind, the infuriated Zeus decided to punish mankind for accepting this forbidden knowledge by gathering 8 other deities and forming the Council of 9. Together, this council created Pandora and sent her as a gift to Epimetheus, along with a box, Pandora's box. She was told never to open it, but of course you know how the story goes. Curiosity got the best of Pandora, and she opened the box, releasing all of the misfortunes of mankind. Which, oddly enough, bears a striking resemblance to the creation story of Genesis in the Bible, when in the Garden of Eden, God gave Adam and Eve everything they could ever want in this paradise, and yet he also placed a certain tree as well, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that was not to be touched by Adam or Eve. And of course, what did they do? They ate from it. And so began man's fall from grace. But I suppose God didn't see that coming. But I digress. 4 years had passed since Andrija Puharich had heard that strange
still surprised.
voice.
I'm still wrapping my mind around the fact Zeus showed up for a minute.
This is gonna get this is covering all the bases, buddy.
It's a wild ride, yeah.
Yeah, this is a wild ride. Strap in your seatbelt.
Tell me when Thanos shows up, okay?
Oh, I forgot Thanos. Damn. 4 years had passed since Andrija Puharich had heard that strange voice come through the Hindu scholar. Puharich was now in Mexico, where he met a doctor and his wife who also had claims of being in touch with space beings through the mouth of a trance medium. The doctor had sent Puharich 2 messages he had received from the space beings, who had ordered him to transmit them to Puharich. The messages stated that they were the same 9 principles who had spoken through the Hindu scholar so long ago, and that they would be contacting Puharich again in due course. Enter Uri Gellar. Yes, the Spoonbender. Gellar's a Hungarian name, and Yuri's parents, Itzhak and Margaret, had fled from Hungary shortly before the Second World War. They succeeded in reaching Palestine, now Israel, in 1940, where they gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Yuri was born on December 20th, 1946 in Tel Aviv. Aside from being a normal boy whose parents were on the splits due to his father's infidelity, Yuri had, or maybe the better word is, received special abilities as a child. You see, Yuri is a self-proclaimed psychic. When questioned about the origin of his powers, he mentioned an incident that took place when he was just 5 years old. His mother had an old sewing machine which had a small hole through which he could see a tiny blue spark. One day, he tried to touch the spark with his finger. The shock threw him backward violently. Shortly thereafter, his powers began to manifest themselves. He discovered one day that he could read his mother's mind. When she came back from playing cards, he knew exactly how much money she had won or lost and would tell her so, to her amazement. But the tangible phenomenon began when he was 6. His father had given him a watch. One day in class, he noticed, God, I almost went into Christopher Walken with this watch that I gave you in class. Anyway, he noticed that it was a half an hour fast, so he set it right. But the time would constantly spring forward. He decided there must be something wrong with the watch. However, when the watch was left at home, it behaved perfectly. Then one day he placed it on the desk in front of him and saw that the hands were going around much too fast. Deciding it was faulty, he persuaded his parents to buy him another. That's when the hands on the watch somehow bent upwards, touching the glass, ruining it. Sometime later, as he sat in class without his watch, the boy sitting next to him remarked, "Hey, my watch just moved ahead an hour." In a mischievous mood, Yuri claimed, "I did that." He took the watch, concentrated on it, and somehow made the hands move ahead on their own. His classmates were astonished. Needless to say, Yuri quickly gained a reputation amongst his school friends as that kid. Then began the spoon bending. One day while eating soup, the bowl of the spoon fell off the handle. And another time in a coffee shop he frequented with his mother, the spoons around him started bending, although he wasn't even touching it. After that came locks, keys, and just about anything metal Yuri could get his hands on. He also noticed a strong telepathic link to his mother. One time when she was in an accident, Yuri knew the very second it happened and was guided directly to the room where she was taken at the hospital. Fast forward 15 years later, Yuri's talents had caught the attention of Dr. Andrija Puharich. Puharich had read a report about a young Israeli with incredible powers including the ability to move the hands of a watch without touching it, and to cause a ring held by someone else to snap merely by cupping his hands around the person's hand. He wrote to Gellar in Israel and went to see him. When Gellar passed a series of tests, he became immediately convinced of Gellar's true abilities and brought him to America for scientific investigation. One day, whilst working together, Gellar was in a light hypnotic trance, and a strange computer-like voice began speaking from the air and identified itself as some kind of superhuman or non-human entity, and went on to explain that they had chosen Gellar to be an instrument of their purpose. If that weren't enough, before this metallic-like voice began speaking out of thin air, while Gellar was in a hypnotic session with Puharich, Gellar was asked about his childhood, only to reveal that when he was just 3 years old, he had gone into the garden opposite his home. In the sky above his head, he noticed a bright bowl-shaped object. There was a high-pitched ringing sound in the air. The light came down closer to him, and that's when some type of figure emerged with a shining face and wearing a black cape. He appeared in front of little Yuri and dazzled him with a ray of light that shot from his head straight into Yuri so hard that he fell to the ground and lost consciousness. In later communications, the space beings identified themselves as the Nine, the same Nine that Puharich had heard from some 20 years earlier. The Nine explained that they chose Yuri because his biological makeup was suitable for their purposes and that he was the perfect receiving station for the powers they would transmit to him. They told the men that they existed in another dimension outside of space and time and had been watching the human race for some thousands of years, and at present they were in a starship called Spectra, somewhere out in deep space. Moreover, it was they who were connected with the phenomenon known as flying saucers or UFOs. Their ultimate purpose was to save man from destroying himself and to bring about world peace. With practice, Gellar's talents grew but were often unpredictable and hard to handle. There's even the time he supposedly and accidentally teleported himself across New York. Yuri was walking down a street in Manhattan with Maria Janice, Gary Cooper's daughter. They had left the apartment to go jogging, and within 2 minutes of walking out the door on 68th and Park, Yuri somehow landed in Puharich's home in Ossining, New York, 36 miles away. Puharich recalls,
I was home alone. I heard this huge crash and thought it was an earthquake. I couldn't find the source of it at first, and then I heard this bleak voice, Andrija, Andrija. There he was, crumpled up on the floor. He was intact and wasn't hurt at all. I've had a lot of that kind of stuff with Yuri.
Well,
Go on.
Gellar's talents also caught the attention of NASA astronaut Captain Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, who was so impressed by Gellar's abilities, he decided to introduce Gellar to a series of controlled tests in one of the most secretive labs in the world, the famed Stanford Research Institute, where cutting-edge research was being conducted, the type of experimental research that had strong military applications. It was here where remote viewing was born. The lab was headed up by laser scientist legends Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, who had Gellar bending metal, teleporting things, demonstrating incidents of telepathy and clairvoyance to their utter amazements. The results were astounding and the stuff of legend. As one story goes, there was another lab upstairs for ARPA, a computer network system. Somebody put two and two together and said,
Hey, there's a crazy kid downstairs who is bending metal and levitating things.
So they cross-correlated and discovered that when Yuri did something, the computers would go wacko. Program printouts would pop up, sometimes partly erased. The power supply would go out, followed by a startling realization.
Holy shit! He's affecting our computers!
Panic ensued. A squad of colonels came out from Washington to sniff around and watch Yuri do his thing. They were immediately shaken.
You guys do know that our whole defense system's based on computers and magnetic tape cards, don't you? Can this guy wipe them out? And will he cooperate? That second one was not a question.
You sure said it like a question, sir. Your inflection went up at the. Your inflection went up at the
Stand
end.
down.
I'm just saying.
It did come up at the end.
Stand down.
It did come up at the end, sir.
We're just trying to follow your orders, and it's just
We're just following the order.
They're a little confused.
Is that an order or a question? Yeah, we're confused.
I have a very melodic tone to my voice.
Still sounds like you're asking a question. Am I right?
It's been a problem most of my life.
I said stand down.
Stand down.
Is that a question or an order, sir? We're really confused.
That's an order.
So they took Gellar to Bell Labs and to the Livermore Radiation Lab, and they put together an elaborate setup for magnetic shielding. They learned that he could wipe out anything on computer tape. The colonels were floored. Riley?
This guy could start
There's a lot of dust in
World
here.
War III.
Later, the Secret Service asked if Gellar...
Yuri Gellar could start World War III.
World War III?
Well, if
sorry,
he could wipe
is that
out the tapes, yes.
Is that a question or an order, sir? Again, we don't.
Oh,
we
Jesus.
don't know.
Later, the Secret Service asked if Gellar could activate the hotline between Moscow and Washington, to which Puharich responded,
I think he could, but I don't think he cares to. You'd have to pay him to do so.
After that, they said they would categorize him as a higher intelligence. You see, Gellar had already astonished the world with his previous television appearances, which caused a sensation in Europe. Hundreds of kids started to bend metal as a result of seeing him either on TV or in person. But the Americans were more skeptical. That is, until they tested him in their labs. It was then the government brass realized they may well indeed have a real problem on their hand. If kids all around the world actually started to believe that these types of mental powers could be learned and used, any kid on a caper could cause a national security crisis. It's not hard to imagine closeted discussions of quieting Gellar. But since the genie was already out of the bottle, they concocted a better idea. Enter stage musician James Randi and scientific skeptic. The idea was to discredit Gellar through a targeted disinformation campaign developed by Ray Hyman in the Department of Defense using the amazing Randi. The plan was simple. Concoct a smokescreen around Gellar so that no one would take him seriously, and Randi was perfect for the job since he didn't believe in the paranormal not one bit in the first place. His job was to make things difficult for legitimate psychic researchers. When the average Joe would say, "Gellar's a fake, Randi proved it," their mission was deemed a success. Now, I should mention here that Gellar probably made this much easier than it needed to be. You see, early in his career, when he would perform psychic feats and metal bending in front of live audiences, and seeing how his powers weren't 100% reliable, his entertainment manager convinced him to have a mentalist trick always at the ready. His manager would watch an audience member or two leave their car and write down their license plate numbers, which he gave to Gellar to reveal on stage. But they got caught, and Gellar's reputation ultimately paid the price. After the glory years of psychic and ESP testing at the Stanford Research Institute, it became a CIA research center with a focus on psychological warfare operations. His time in the limelight, however, took its toll. Exhausted by skeptics and everyone he came across asking him to bend something, Gellar and Andrija eventually went their separate ways. Andrija continued his research in parapsychology with a focus on low-frequency waves and their causal effects, and Gellar went on to make millions as a hired psychic dowser for oil drilling companies. Once when asked about what he thought of Yuri Gellar, Andrija said,
He won't admit it, but I can tell you, after researching him for years, that he's E.T. Like the man who fell to Earth. He just wants to be a regular person.
And that is the story of Andrija Puharich, Uri Gellar, and the Council of Nine.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
I like that story.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts about it.
Tell us.
Okay. Well, it's like Okay, I recently watched this documentary. Have you guys ever heard of Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind? It's
Yeah,
this like
sure.
new documentary that came out
Yes.
in 2021. Okay.
The Stephen Greer stuff about him contacting UFOs through.
Yeah, it's a human being initiated contact protocol.
Exactly. And like, so I recently talked about this on a show that I do, and like everybody turned on me. It was like everyone's like, "This is a cult. Get out, Anais." And it's not like I'm outside like trying to call, ET, but I think that it's like skeptics. It's a fine line between like conspiracy theory and skepticism, where it's like sometimes people, I think, like if you say everything you actually believe, like you can sometimes be persecuted for your beliefs. A lot of people have been persecuted for their beliefs. And I don't know if it's because that person becomes too powerful and they become like an egomaniac, or if it's the people around them that make them an egomaniac. It's like this relationship between the two.
It's funny you should mention, because Yuri would state that, amongst skeptics, if they were really skeptical, his powers would find themselves dwindling. Whereas if he could gain momentum and belief started to develop in a room or with an audience, his powers grew,
Yes. Like there's that study with water, and I can't remember the scientist, but
yeah, Dr. Imaro Motoru, the hidden messages in water. Yeah.
And
fantastic.
The way that he like if there's good energy and good vibrations in the room, that the water would crystallize in these beautiful formations like diamonds. It was gorgeous. But if the room was skeptical and there was bad energy around, then the water would just look terrible.
Yes. And one of my favorite books, exactly how you explained it. He ran a series of tests photographing microscopic water molecules, and some he would emit a Buddhist chant upon it, and then some he would be like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, and the ones he would photograph with thoughts of like love or thankfulness or gratitude came out in these beautiful crystalline structures, and the ones that had sort of even like heavy metal playing or something came out like distorted, and they were still beautiful, but in a different sort of, in a way.
No knock against heavy metal, guys. Riley, we still love rock and roll.
Sorry,
Riley. It was ugly, but it's still beautiful.
That'd be kind of cool. Like maybe you could sell
way.
like canned water that has heard like 1,000 hours of Slayer or something. There's a market for that. For sure.
Death water, death water.
Death water.
I drink death water.
Oh my God.
But then they say that that's why when you like look at yourself, like mirrors can be really dangerous. That when you look at yourself in the mirror, you should tell yourself that you're beautiful, wonderful, powerful, because the water molecules, they say that the water molecules in your body can actually change. 100%. So if you tell yourself you're ugly and I look stupid, and what else do I tell myself? You're an idiot. Then
that's
the water molecules will
esoteric
change.
lore. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
Yes.
And ever since I read that book, whenever I drink water, and I try to drink lots of it, as it's going down, I always say to my water, I love you, thank you. I love you, thank you, with every swallow I take. It's just
that's
a little
your
habit I've
secret.
created.
That's how you look so good.
That's my secret of youth.
Oh
you
my
guys.
God. Okay, I'm gonna start.
Here's a
doing
little
that.
fun fact. Did you guys know that the series Star Trek was inspired and heavily influenced by the Council of Nine? Transcripts show that Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry had extensive communications with the Nine. After Andrija's initial contact with the Council of Nine, he created a group called the Round Table Foundation, or Lab 9, to research paranormal happenings. Prominent members included the influential philosopher and inventor Arthur M. Young, the socialite Alice Astor, various scientists, and even Hollywood's John Pavel and Gene Roddenberry. Lab 9 wanted to hire Roddenberry to write a screenplay based on the Council of Nine's imminent return. So Roddenberry met and interviewed several psychics and prepared the groundwork for his script, and began a series of channeled exchanges in 1975 with a being named Tom, who claimed to be one of the Nine. However, Roddenberry was frustrated by the first series as he felt that he had to make too many compromises to convention. Star Trek: The Next Generation would be done his way, where the series gave even stronger mystical undertones. Roddenberry and his team created 9 major characters, all having their own corresponding deities in the Egyptian Ennead, exactly as the 9 claimed to be. The series was then followed by Deep Space Nine, that introduced a character named Vinod, a nod to Dr. G. Vinod, the real-life psychic channeler of the Council of Nine.
That's cool. I don't know too much about the Council of Nine stuff. It's very I get it. I mean, it's like all cool. I feel like all that stuff is very look, I don't know much about it. This stuff feels to me, the Council of Nine stuff feels to me like in the realm of like Atlantis and Lemuria.
It's very Philip Dick too, isn't it?
Yeah, and then like just a turn of the century spiritualist kind of stuff, like the Count of Comte de Saint Germain and like the Ascended Masters and all that stuff. Like, I just don't know too much about it. I love the idea. I definitely love the like conceit that the archetype of like 9 gods or like 9 Ascended Masters or the Council of 9 or 9 aliens shows up a lot. You know, that's fascinating. I think with the Uri Geller stuff though, you know, hey, listen, Bryce, you know I love these stories, and I think the stories are great, and this is a great story. I just kind of think that he's just probably a stage magician that came up with like a really great backstory for his character, you know? And it's just like when you read about like how easy it is to actually bend spoons as a stage trick, and then like how much money he lost trying to sue the Amazing Randy and losing in court over and over again. It's just like kind of sad. But I love the story of it. Like Anais says, you know, I'm just like, I don't know, you know, I don't know if I feel like this was like a big fad in the 70s and 80s. And then he kind of like got debunked and then I love that he's like making millions. He made millions like dousing for oil companies.
Psychic dousing. Yeah.
Yeah,
psychic oil finding.
Dousing.
It's fascinating. I just don't know if I just don't know where I fall, and that's not the point.
I totally hear you. I totally understand too. Yeah, it's a hard thing to fathom, isn't it?
Is there like?
It's the hard thing for small minds to fathom.
Yeah.
I understand, Michael. It's not for everybody.
Abuse.
Guys, sorry.
Small mind.
I didn't mean to start World War III with my brain. Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there documentation from all this like experimenting that was done? Is there any concrete?
Yep. No, it's all been, a lot of it's been unclassified, and you can read about it in on websites. I think that, you know, how you know what's interesting is,
so it's on websites.
Not on websites, but in books as well. Look, Annie Jacobson, a Pulitzer Prize finalist and investigative journalist,
the Area 51.
Wrote an incredible book documenting all these tests called Phenomenon. It's an incredible book.
Okay.
It's definitely worth a read, and it might change your mind on your skepticism. You know, there's a great.
Bryce, remember how upset you got at Annie Jacobson over on the Patreon when we talked about her theory for what really happened at Roswell?
No, Annie Jacobson's the author.
Yeah, of Area 51. Remember we talked about this over, and that there were actually kids that had been experimented on by the Russians and shot over from Mexico, and you got really upset at her.
I know. That's just because I think that was just a horrifying thought.
Oh God.
But
thanks for bringing that.
Yeah,
up.
Jesus
Christ,
Michael.
I'm just saying you like to use Annie Jacobson.
Remember how upset you got when she talked about how children were experimented on?
You're Annie Jacobson. You like to bring her out as backup.
Didn't you say you felt bad for the monkeys?
I always wanted us to have a spoon bending party because Colonel John B. Alexander, a PhD who is has an extinguished military career and wrote the book UFOs, Myths, Conspiracies, and Reality. His latest book, Reality Denied, goes into some of these spoon bending parties that he would have. His book is called The Firsthand Experiences with Things That Can't Happen But Did. The foreword is by Uri Gellar, but he talks about these spoon bending parties he would throw where he would bring a box of spoons, dump them on the table, and he would start with saying, you have to set aside your skepticism. And he would say, more often than not, man, people were bending spoons at these parties. So maybe it's something we should try.
There's a lot of like stuff, you can debunk spoon bending. That's the problem. You know what I mean? Because it is like a magician's trick. And I'm just saying it's out there. It's very easily Googleable.
I want to see you bend a spoon, Michael.
Yeah.
That'll put this to bed.
I'll tell you what, we'll bend spoons
trick.
and see what happens. If I can bend a spoon with my mind, I'll believe it.
Great.
Because you know what's kind of crazy when you think about this is like, say for Uri, right? Like imagine being like part of the 9 and imagine it being like, what if, right? What if it was actually legitimate? And you're like one of those people and you're really bending spoons and you're really doing this and you're really like, you guys, this is the bigger picture here. And we're a lot more powerful than we think. And we're just limited. And, you can get out of that. And then people just persecuting you or being skeptical or what do we call Michael? Small-minded.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the scarier thought, isn't it? That there's
be
reality to this. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you think about Joan of Arc, right? I mean, it's like she was persecuted and look what she did, just because she stood up for what she believed.
Yeah. We'll never know. You said it earlier, Anais. The mind we still have yet to comprehend and its powers have yet to be unleashed. We know nothing about its potential capabilities. And if ESP is one of them, which I think we can all get on board and say there's definitely some ESP powers that probably do exist, then why can't telekinesis be part of that arsenal?
Yeah.
I agree. 10% of our brain we use.
Mm-hmm.
What is the rest of it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is it? I want to know so bad. I feel like I don't want to die before it all gets discovered.
I know. Did you guys ever do this? After watching Star Wars, I would go to my basement. I would turn my little 3-wheeler trike on its handlebars, and I would try holding out my hand to see if I could spin that big front round tire. And, nothing ever came of it. My big wheel. Yeah. I tried to spin my big wheel.
I really, really thought I could move things with my mind for sure as a child. I tried so many times because I mean mine was Carrie. I watched Spaceballs as a child a bunch, but I never watched Star Wars until I was like a few years ago. It was crazy.
What if it was
that
just
your role model was Carrie?
Yeah.
Like we had Luke Skywalker, you had Carrie. Like,
what if it's just true belief
mind.
stopping us? What if it's our skepticism closing off that door?
Totally. Because again, it's like a fine line, right? Where it's like I used to have this dream, for instance, where I could fly because I have lucid dreams. So I'm always like, oh, this is a dream. I'm going to fly. Yep. And so I start flying, but I'm always scared I'm going to fly too high. And so I always have to go back down. And I'm like, I want to fly in between, right? I don't want to be walking. I want to be flying, but I don't want to be flying too high because then I end up like in space and I'm scared, And so it's like, I want to be able to like fly in the middle, but it's like, if we do unlock these things and we do lean into these things, is it too out there?
It's like, it reminds me of the time I gave myself the role of Anakin Skywalker while high on mushrooms. I had gotten the job, I had filmed it, and I was wonderful in it. No more to do or say. I had completed it, because I 100% believed.
You flew too close to the sun, Bryce, and those wax wings melted. Anais Fairweather, thank you so much for being part of the show. Bryce, great job, by the way. That was a great story. Where, Anais, can people, we don't know where to find Bigfoot, but where can people find you?
Right. I mean, I just found out about Skunk Ape. So listen, you can find me and I'm going to be starting to look for Skunk Ape. And so you can find me at Anais Fairweather on Instagram. I don't have like a cool name. It's just Anais Fairweather. There's no spaces. And then I also do a show with my comedy team every Monday and Thursday night at 7:00 on Twitch. And we are called Private Straight Comedy.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic.
Cool.
And you know what? Another place you can find Anais is over on our Patreon, BCC The Other Side, because Anais, you're going to stick around. You're going to come do an episode with us.
I can't wait.
That's going to go up on Friday. So if you're listening to it, or if you're a member of the other side, you'll get more of Anais this week. Patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub. I'm at McMills on Instagram. We are at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Instagram and at Bigfoot Pod on Twitter. Riley, Bryce, what you got?
Hey, I'll say you heard us mention it earlier on the podcast. I've developed an adult game for childish people. It's called Dirty Picture Cover-Up. Go to thedpcugame.com. Order yours today as people are starting to gather around and have a good night's laugh again. It is the funniest game I've ever played. It's so much fun. Go get yours. I would love to hear how it goes and how it went.
Yeah, here. Buy Bryce's game for real. It's amazing. I'm Peace Drone on Instagram. That's where I am on the internet. And I just wanted to say again, the other side, like if you're thinking about signing up, like you should just try it for a month. It's not just like DVD bonus features. It's like an entire other show with an entire other back catalog. So if you like the show and you've gotten this far into the episode where you're listening to our plugs, you probably would like it. So just, give it a shot. It also like truly it keeps us going. So we really appreciate our patrons over there.
Well
so
said.
That's what I have to say about that.
We're going to head over to the other side. Anais is coming with us. For the rest of you, we'll see you then, or until next time, good night.
And go get regressed. Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.